Well, you all know what one of the major problems is at one of these things, and that's the audience inside the hall. Let me make a pitch to you, okay? What we're doing here tonight, I didn't come here, they're not going to all this trouble for me to show how cute and clever I am, and they also didn't go to all this trouble to show how partisan and loud you all can be. We are the privileged ones to be in this hall, and we don't want to abuse that privilege.
October 6, 1996, Hartford, Connecticut, the first presidential debate between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole, and moderator Jim Lehrer of PBS gives pre-debate instructions to the studio audience. Similar to what Lester Holt of NBC News told an audience 20 years later, September 26, 2016, Hofstra University in New York, before the first debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
As you can imagine, this is not an easy job, so I'm going to ask your help tonight. You heard the admonition. If you could please refrain from clapping and booing or reacting in any audible way, that would make my job a lot easier, and I know the American public would appreciate it, because we really want to hear what they have to say tonight, and I'm happy to be the one facilitating that conversation.
One exciting feature of presidential debates used to be watching debate moderators give the audience instructions on how to behave. Instructions based on a simple yet stern premise: be quiet. But not this year. Soon will be the first debate of the 2024 general election presidential campaign. But unlike prior years, this one, hosted by CNN, won't have a studio audience, which means there will be no one to hush. Thus, this episode of C-SPAN's Podcast The Weekly, we pay tribute to all the times and all the ways all the moderators told all the audiences, keep your mouths shut. Presidential debates without studio audiences. 1960 between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, 1976 between Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, and now 2024, which means before the upcoming debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, you won't hear anything like what Jim Lehrer said before the October 3, 2000 debate. At the University of Massachusetts in Boston, the first of 3 debates between Al Gore and George W. Bush.
And I would like to reinforce what you've already heard in a rather strong way, if I may. There are 3 separate functions being performed here tonight. The 2 candidates are going to stand up there and answer questions for 90 minutes. I'm going to sit here and ask questions for 90 minutes, and you all are going to remain absolutely silent for 90 minutes.
And you won't hear anything like you did from Bob Schieffer of CBS News on October 22, 2012, Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. Warming up the crowd before the 3rd presidential debate between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, Bob Schieffer invoked American exceptionalism and mice.
I'd just like to reiterate what you have already been told. We have to be quiet as mice throughout this, because we want a debate that is worthy of the presidency of the greatest country in the world. Thank you all for coming to the debate.
Hearing debate moderators tell audiences to keep quiet is not just a heartwarming, nostalgic stroll down memory lane. It also provides stark reminders of what we as a society used to consider cutting-edge technology. For example, here's Jim Lehrer, October 9, 1996, the vice presidential debate in St. Petersburg, Florida, Jack Kemp versus Al Gore.
I have been told that somebody has a cellular phone that's working. Turn it off, and so you can't hear it. Because what that does is there's an awful lot, as you can see, an awful lot of communications going on around here. So just turn off your cellular phone if you have it.
Here's Jim Lehrer again on October 3, 2000, the debate between Al Gore and George W. Bush. With the new millennium came a new technology and a new anxiety: pagers.
You got the word on the cell phones and the pagers. You want to see an angry person. I'm going to turn around. If I hear a cell phone or a pager go off, I don't think it's going to happen, but...
And 2 days later, October 5th, 2000, Danville, Kentucky, the vice presidential debate, Dick Cheney and Joe Lieberman. Here's your moderator from CNN, Bernard Shaw.
Does anyone have a cell phone here? Or a pager? If you do, please shut it off.
They were still using pagers in 2004. At the University of Miami on September 30th, 2004, the first of 3 debates between George W. Bush and John Kerry. Here's Jim Lehrer.
Wow, cell phones and pagers. Let's do that now. Let's turn. I'm sure somebody's already told you that, but if not, turn off your cell phones and pagers right now.
After the advent of cell phones, where did the inevitable march of technology take us next? Straight into using cell phones to take pictures. And that required a warning, too. Here is legendary newsman Tom Brokaw instructing the audience before the second debate between Barack Obama and John McCain, October 7, 2008, at Belmont University, Nashville, Tennessee.
So tonight is a historic occasion, and it's going to require not just your attention, but your forbearance, and we hope your deportment. All of you in this hall know that this is about these candidates who are running for the most powerful office in the world. And we'd like not to have any outbursts of any kind tonight. In fact, it's not just that we wouldn't like to have it, we just won't tolerate it. And it's also important for you to remember that if you leave the hall, you will not be able to come back in, and there will be no photographs taken during the course of this debate.
By 2012, the unstoppable advancement of useful technology continued. Now, something new to benefit humanity: goofy cell phone ringtones. And as you might imagine, that required a warning. Talking to the audience before the October 11, 2012 vice presidential debate in Danville, Kentucky, Joe Biden versus Paul Ryan, here's ABC News senior foreign affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz with a personal story.
I am not the scolding type, so I am not really going to repeat all these things about turning off your cell phones. I'm just going to give you a warning. I was once in a White House briefing, and my phone went off, and my son, who is here somewhere tonight, had put in Chamillionaire's Ridin' Dirty, which is apparently hip-hop. So that broke up that, and I have never had my cell phone go off anywhere ever again.
We return to the September 30th, 2004 debate between George W. Bush and John Kerry. Jim Lehrer cited technology there too, but he went retro. He talked about radio.
This is not, a competing kind of pep rally, or in the old days, the old amateur. Some of you are old enough to remember the old amateur programs on radio where a guy would play the accordion and somebody else would play the violin, and the winner would be declared as whoever got the most applause. That's not what this is about tonight. No applause, no hissing, no booing, no cheering, no crying, no laughing, absolute silence. These lights are going to be down once this debate comes. Nobody's going to see you. There are no reaction shots. There's nothing. We are privileged to be here tonight just to bear witness.
What else did Jim Lehrer do with the audiences before debates? Well, here's something special. He handed out jobs to the wives of the presidential candidates. Their job, hall monitor. Here again, the September 30th, 2004 debate between George W. Bush and John Kerry.
I want to implore you and beg of you to follow the rules. But if for some reason some of you choose not to, I will be very, very bad to you about it. Even though my back, I'm going to be sitting right here. I'm going to be sitting right here with my back to you. If for some reason there is some noise, I'm going to stop the debate. And I'm going to turn around and hold you up to public ridicule and deduct the time from your candidate. Never had to do that before, and I'm certain it's not going to happen tonight. But I would like to, because I'm going to have my back to you all, I would like on this side of the room, I'd like to appoint Mrs. Bush to monitor this side, to take names for me, and Mrs. Kerry on this side to take names for me, and to enforce the rules. And feel free to enlist anybody else you would like on your endeavor.
4 years later, the moderator made more monitors. September 26, 2008, the University of Mississippi. Here's Jim Lehrer before the first of three debates between Barack Obama and John McCain.
And I don't want to worry about anybody cheering and hollering or making any noise behind me. Now, I'm going to ask Mrs. Obama on this side of the hall and Mrs. McCain on this side of the hall to help me, because I'm going to be sitting here with my back to you all, and I'm going to ask you all to monitor your side, take names. And as I've told folks before, if anybody does make a lot, I'll stop the debate, turn around, point my finger at you, make you stand up, and take the time out of your candidate's thing.
And the October 3rd, 2012 debate at the University of Denver. It was the first debate between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, and it was Michelle Obama's second stint as a monitor.
And as I say, I have no fear that anybody's going to do anything, but as a precaution, I'm going to ask Mrs. Obama on this side and Mrs. Romney on this side to enforce the rules on your side and on your side. Take names. I'll humiliate him. I'll do anything, whatever.
But it wasn't just wives whom Jim Lehrer designated as hall monitors. He even gave the job to a former president. October 16th, 1996, San Diego, the second and final debate between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole. Jim Lehrer gave a special job to a special guest in the audience, sitting in the front row, Gerald Ford.
Now, what I'm going to do, what I was not able to do in St. Petersburg or Hartford. We did not have a former president of the United States in the audience. Mr. President, I hereby designate you hall monitor. You have my permission, sir, to whack anybody who gets out of line.
By the way, in case you don't remember that debate, you'll be happy to know Gerald Ford whacked no one. Heck, he didn't even pardon anyone. And when he wasn't talking cell phones, and when he wasn't talking hall monitors, Jim Lehrer talked about something else, humiliation. Like before the October 6, 1996 debate between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole in Hartford, Connecticut.
If it gets out of hand, this chair I've got here is a swivel chair, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to humiliate you is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop the debate and say, wait a minute. Now, think how bad that would be for all the folks in America who are watching.
3 days later, another threat of humiliation. Here's Jim Lehrer before the vice presidential debate between Jack Kemp and Al Gore.
This chair I've got, and I'm going to have my back to you, but this chair swivels. And I'll turn around and humiliate you. I'll stop the debate. Think about how awful that would be. I'll stop the debate, turn around and humiliate you in front of everybody you've ever known in your life. Because they're all watching here tonight.
And yet another threat of humiliation 4 years later. Here's Jim Lehrer on October 3rd, 2000, before Al Gore debated George W. Bush.
Those of you all who've been in the hall before know that I really mean this. I have been known to turn around and humiliate people in front of everybody they've ever known in the world.
By 2012, Jim Lehrer seemed to mellow out, at least a little bit. Here are his instructions before the October 3rd, 2012 debate between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney.
Absolute silence. Those of you who have been in or watched on television the primary debates know that is not the case. The rules are different here for these events. In the early days when I first started addressing the audience in the hall, I threatened people. I mean, I'd say, okay, you make noise, you hiss and boo, or even applaud, cheer. I'll turn around and I'll stop and I'll make you stand up and humiliate you in front of the whole world. I don't do that anymore because I don't need to, because everybody knows the drill.
And Bob Schieffer got right to the point before the third debate between George W. Bush and John Kerry, October 13th, 2004, at Arizona State University.
Please remain silent during the debate, and if you don't, something really bad will happen to you.
Finally, was applause ever approved? Well, let's hear Jim Lehrer before the October 17th, 2000 debate in St. Louis. Al Gore versus George W. Bush.
Now, in a few moments, Mrs. Gore and Mrs. Bush are going to come out, and they're going to sit right up here in these special little seats behind down here at this level. And you can applaud then, by the way. That won't be on television except in some places like C-SPAN elsewhere.
And now, a bonus clip. We've heard moderators warm up the crowd with talk about threats, humiliation, and hall monitors. But what about baseball? Okay, well, here's Charlie Gibson of ABC News and Good Morning America. October 8th, 2004, Washington University in St. Louis. An exciting debate between George W. Bush and John Kerry. And an equally exciting finish to the American League Division Series between the Boston Red Sox and the California Angels. Here's Charlie Gibson with the play-by-play.
It was extra innings. It was 6-6 for quite some time. I think the Angels, I didn't see it, had a grand slam home run to tie it up. Bottom of the 10th, I think it was, Johnny Damon led off with a single. Bellhorn tried to sacrifice him to second. He was thrown out at second. Manny Ramirez struck out. Mike Scioscia for the Angels switched pitchers. brought in poor fella Washburn, who had started and got bombed in the first game. And the first pitch to David Ortiz was a home run over the Green Monster in left field, opposite field home run, and the city of Boston went nuts. As a matter of fact, I suspect that the entire city of Boston may be in the streets celebrating, and Senator Kerry's home constituency may be underrepresented in the audience tonight.
And now a rare second bonus clip. You may not be into baseball, but what about live theater? If so, then the October 7th, 2020 vice presidential debate at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, Mike Pence versus Kamala Harris, was just the thing for you. Susan Page, Washington bureau chief of USA Today, became the first print journalist to be the solo moderator of one of the general election debates. She warmed up the crowd with a reference to a popular Broadway musical.
Hey, welcome. And congratulations, you have scored the most exclusive tickets in the United States. Hamilton has nothing on the Commission on Presidential Debates when it comes to exclusive tickets.
And with Hamilton in mind, for the 2024 debate, there will be no audience in the room where it happens. That's it for this episode of C-SPAN's The Weekly. Want to hear more presidential debate moderators tell more presidential debate audiences to zip it? Just go to cspan.org and search the C-SPAN video library. Then stick around and hear from the candidates themselves. Thanks for listening, happy searching, and now that this podcast is over, some good news. You may now talk, cheer, applaud, and turn your cell phones and pagers back on.